The killer or cover-up trial. The defendant is this woman, Karen Reed. She is a professor and was the girlfriend of the case victim, a man who was a Boston police officer for 16 years, Officer John O'Keefe. Let's take a look back at how Monday's testimony went.
I found multiple pieces of red and clear taillight. Same location. Generally, it was in between the flagpole and the fire hydrant. The sneaker was flush up against the curb and it was upside down. I think we had found one piece of taillight prior to the sneaker, and then after we found the sneaker, we found a few more additional pieces of taillight. The sneaker was completely buried. It wasn't until we started digging through the snow that we found the sneaker.
Was a clear piece of plastic found a few feet south of the black sneaker, which was found 3 feet south of the red piece of plastic? Did that happen?
I don't know the distance, sir. No, not without measuring it. But I wouldn't think it was that far of a distance. They were much closer than that.
Right. I mean, you say you don't know the distance, but you testified to what the distance was in that prior proceeding, did you not?
Objection.
And then, moving along, we have the red piece of plastic, 3 feet south, black sneaker, a few feet south, clear plastic, and finally, several feet south of that clear piece of plastic, was there a second piece of red plastic found, several feet south?
No, again, I don't agree with your description of the distance, sir.
Oh.
I was informed that this vehicle may have been involved in a hit and run, so I was requested to examine it for biological material. I was informed that the victim had scratches on his arm, as well as the fact that the car had been towed through a blizzard. I performed blood screening on the lower lying areas of the undercarriage, on each side of the tire flap, as well as the edge of the bumper and the exhaust pipe.
And what were the results of that testing that you performed there in the garage?
Those were negative. I observed the apparent glass on the rear bumper.
Are you able to tell from your examination of those fibers and of those clothing materials sort of what caused those tears and cuts?
No. As far as the sneakers, given their dark color, I did not see any visible red-brown stains on the black area of the sneakers, so I used an alternate light source to aid in visualizing any potential blood on those sneakers. With that alternate light source, I tested several stains on the sneakers, one of which screened positive for blood.
With respect to the other clothing items that you were talking about doing the screening test and the confirmatory test for blood, with respect to the gray sweatshirt, the orange t-shirt, and the jeans, what were the results of that screening test and that confirmatory test that you ran with regard to each of those?
The screening test and the confirmatory test were positive.
With regard to the pieces that you had sort of put together, what, if anything, were you able to do with regard to some of those pieces and the tail light housing, item 3-1?
From those items that we just saw, I was able to piece one larger piece with many of those pieces all fit together into one piece that I then called piece 1. There were some other pieces that also fit together among those question ones that I called pieces 2, piece 3, piece 4, and piece 5. Piece 1 was a physical match with item 3-1, the taillight.
All right, what do you think of the testimony that came in on Monday? We heard a lot, the pieces of the broken tail light. We heard about the pieces in John O'Keefe's clothing. We heard about his sneaker being recovered, even though there was a lot of disinformation about it never being found. It was right in the vicinity of where his body was found. And how about the hair found on Karen Reed's bumper? So much damaging evidence coming in. Let's talk about this case. with our wonderful guest in the studio with me, psychology expert Dr. Sue Kornbluth, and remotely want to welcome in retired Deputy Inspector for the NYPD and the author of the book Once a Cop, Corey Pegues. Good morning to you both. Let's talk about the evidence that we saw coming in and the story that it tells. Dr. Sue, you've been following this case since the beginning. Monday was undoubtedly a huge day for the Commonwealth. Your thoughts on the picture being painted?
Julie, I think right now it's painting doubt that she did it, okay? I think there's a lot of things going on here. Did somebody plant that hair on the back of the taillight? Was there tissue found? No. I mean, that's what they testified to. So we don't know. Right now it's looking better for her at this point than I think it has for a while going into this. But we're gonna have to see what happens going forward here. What I think isn't helping Karen Read, and let me be clear on this, is her demeanor in the courtroom. All right, you know, psychologically, I look at her. And when they show her on camera, she's smiling, or she's laughing, or she's, you know, not looking serious enough about what is going on. He was murdered. Did we forget that for a minute? So I think she needs to change up her demeanor here and really look serious about what is going on here. This isn't a show. It's a murder trial.
Yeah, it sure is. The victim, Boston police officer John O'Keefe, no matter what you think about this case, no matter what your opinions are. And the great thing about America is we can all think differently and feel differently. And guess what? The opinions of the jurors are what matters here. The jurors are seeing the evidence. And any way you look at it, John O'Keefe is the victim. Corey Pegues, a big day on Monday, as you know, lots of forensic evidence coming in. What did you think after the day concluded?
Well, good morning. First of all, I want to say, I think that Karen's demeanor in the courtroom, I think she's being very, very serious, so much that she's not, you know, she's cracking a smile here and there, but I think she's looking very, very serious, like she's taking it serious. I haven't even seen her smile, only when she's talking to her lawyers, and that's every once in a while. Now, what stood out to me yesterday was the prosecution asking, I forget which scientist they had up there, and they asked, what was your conclusion in the undercarriage? Did you find anything? And he said, no, it was negative. So does that rule out him being dragged under the car, getting the scratches on his arm? Because we just heard that. And when she tested the undercarriage, I think she said the left tire, the right, there was no evidence there. So again, and I told you from the beginning, Julie, I'm so stuck on these scratches. I was hoping that an expert can come and tell us how these scratches came about. I'm just a layperson like you and Doc.
No, you're not. You're a law enforcement expert.
What
You've worked a lot of homicide cases.
Right,
I know you're not a medical examiner. I know what you're saying. Right.
I'm looking at this case as a juror without my expertise. They have to use, you know, in these trials, y'all know common sense plays a big part in these jurors' mind also. So the scratches, I really believe that it's going to be a problem for the jury unless we can get somebody to say, an expert, this is how that happened.
Yeah, well, and that's something the Commonwealth has yet to tackle. They really haven't addressed how it occurred yet with an accident reconstructionist. From what I've, seen from some analysis that's been done, that perhaps it was from the undercarriage, perhaps from a snowplow. I know that's Ted Rowlands' theory, that after he was hit and left, that perhaps because he was so close to the road, maybe a snowplow did it.
I didn't hear that theory. I didn't hear that
Yeah,
theory.
What do you think about that, Corey Pegues? Does that make more sense?
Yeah, that makes sense if he was ran over by the snowplow. Remember, the snowplow got all of those, I don't know what you call them.
Sure. I know
rivets.
what you mean. Right.
Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe Ted Rowlands cracked the case.
Maybe he did. Leave it to Ted. He is brilliant. And you bring up a great point, too, because, really, medical examiners, have the training and expertise to determine what's caused by what, and they don't always have the answers. Many of the most brilliant medical examiners, and I've been fortunate to, interview some of them, namely Dr. Cyril Wecht, they'll tell you, sometimes they can't figure things out, and they often have to correlate, which is good to do, the case evidence that police are gathering with what they see at autopsy. And so it'll be very interesting to see what the ME says after looking at John O'Keefe's body and how this may have occurred. Dr. Sue, your thoughts on that? I felt like you wanted to say something when we mentioned the plow.
Yes, I just think they're struggling to notice where these scratches come from, and if they are from someone's nails. I mean, women have long nails, not me, but you do. And, it could be from the snowblower. I was just thinking about that because underneath are those rivets, as my colleague said, and they could have went like that. I don't know. This is the problem with this case. We just don't know. It could be so many different things, Julie.
Looking at this case, and of course, I'm looking at the evidence. I'm not paying attention to the noise from people who, who knows who they are, and they're writing crazy things and a lot of disinformation. And looking at the evidence, yesterday, one of the biggest things came out in court that debunked some disinformation out there about the idea that investigators somehow broke her tail light and took pieces of it and planted it at the scene. Her vehicle was en route to being impounded at the time that all of this evidence was being uncovered in the snow. Corey Pegues, you've worked a lot of homicide scenes. What did you think when you heard that? And I know you've heard the disinformation too. You're active on Twitter. When you're hearing this lieutenant testify about how his CERT team recovered multiple pieces of broken taillight right there in the vicinity where Officer O'Keefe was found.
Well, I thought, again, like you, I agree with you. I thought that was a big moment. And these are the moments we're looking for, to piece, the pieces of the puzzle to come together. And I thought that was a very big win for the prosecution to show that, hey, no, during the time that car was en route, we did recover these broken pieces of the tail light.
Right. Dr. Sue, go ahead.
I was going to say, they're saying that they recovered it on the way there after this happened. So, that challenges the theory that the hair was placed after. So
exactly. They didn't have the car. They didn't have the car. And so, and so it's just, I mean, here's the other thing too, and this hit me last night, and it might be my opening statement tomorrow morning.
I think it should be, Julie.
Okay, I shared it with Dr. Sue in the break, so Corey, let me see what you think about this. I was thinking about, the defense theory, right? Their theory is that this was an impromptu homicide, that John O'Keefe went into that house to party, and that people got mad at him, and that 3 people beat him up, and that they dumped him outside. And I was thinking about this. If this was an impromptu homicide, and if they did beat him up and kill him or come close to killing him, they had no need to tie it to Karen Reed, okay? And here's why. If that happened in the house and they were beat up, these are cops, they would know. They could very easily call 911, say, we were attacked first, we had to hit back in self-defense, please come save this man's life, he's here in the house. There's no need to take him outside, try to connect him to her car, break her taillight, plant the pieces, take a hair, put it on the bumper, all of these, there's no need in the world to frame Karen Reed. If they did beat him up in the house, because they're cops, they could lie for each other and say, I witnessed it, I saw it, he attacked us first, we've got witnesses, this is how it went down. There's zero reason in the world why they would need to frame her. So that hit me last night when I'm thinking about this. This is why this doesn't make sense to me.
They
Dr.
need
Sue.
you
Well,
to
here's some pushback. But Julie,
Go ahead,
Julie, his pushback on that theory,
Please,
the
go ahead.
pushback is Higgins and Karen Reed in this love triangle with John O'Keefe. John is there, Higgins is there. They get into this fight, and John O'Keefe overpowers Higgins. And Higgins, he's closer to the Alberts. maybe they do. You know, I'm just giving
It supports
pushback
it.
on it.
That gives support.
You
Well,
know?
no, but think about it, Corey. If that's the motive, I see where you're going. If Higgins is the motive, he wanted to be with Karen Reed, so they wanted to take John O'Keefe out. You know, that's motive.
No, I don't think it was intentional
to...
murder, Julie. I don't think they I think.
Well, we agree
again,
there.
these are just theories. I don't want the Twitter world to go crazy. It's just a theory that they had a fight, and then it just went left, Julie. And
you're talking about
something
Karen Reed
happened.
and John O'Keefe.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Inside
and
of
that's
the
the
house,
thing.
in the Higgins.
Yeah, I don't know that she's correctly charged with murder. I've said from the outset, as a former prosecutor looking at the evidence, I don't know anybody connected to this case, doesn't change my life in any way, shape, or form. It's another case that I'm analyzing and calling it like I see it. The way I see this one is that they got the right defendant, but I'm not sure they charged her correctly. So far, it seems like a manslaughter to me. And maybe I'm wrong, because maybe we're going to see more evidence that supports intentionality based on the state's theory.
That
Go
I
ahead, Dr.
agree with
Sue.
you about the manslaughter. Even if it was an accident and she bumped into him, I think she was riled up and moved back the car and hit him. And I don't think it was intentional. I think it was heated.
Yeah, it was heated.
Yeah.
She was very clearly intoxicated. Yeah, so I'm not sure the charge is right.
Yeah.
But the theory makes zero sense to me. I think that's my opening statement tomorrow.